Hi, friends. Welcome to another episode of Spewcast, episode 8.
Eight.
I'm pretty pumped about this episode.
It's I think we hinted
Yeah.
at doing this before.
Yeah, we did.
So without further ado, we're going to be doing a Black Family Tree deep dive.
Yes, so we're going to do the Black Family Tree first, and then we're going to talk about the Veil.
Into the Veil. Coming soon.
We definitely talked about that before, and I went into this whole stressful situation. Actually, I think we've talked about it twice. So,
I guess starting from Sirius and Regulus.
yeah.
The first thing I found interesting was that Sirius was the third Sirius on the family tree.
I thought you knew that, and I didn't.
No, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Okay.
I believe Regulus is the second. I didn't write this down. But anyways, it's interesting. I mean, I guess it makes sense that they would pass names down. They're a very keep it in the blood type family. So, but he's not called Sirius the Third. So,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, he doesn't go by Sirius the Third, but
Yeah,
I don't know how many people actually do. So
yeah, I don't know. But their parents were Walburga and Orion, and they were cousins. Maybe second cousins. I don't really know how it works, but I think they were direct cousins,
Oh, okay.
which is freaky.
That's a little disturbing.
Classic
but
black family, pure blood business going on.
then maybe that hints at a few of the issues that they have.
There was a lot of that actually in this family tree. There was at least two other occurrences of some incestual
Yeah.
relationships.
We're talking about that, right? A little bit, or no?
Sure. I mean, that's really all I wrote regarding that.
Oh no, but
But-
we talk about some of the others. Okay, I'm reading.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So there's a few interesting things here. So another is that Bellatrix Lestrange, Narcissa Malfoy, and Andromeda Tonks, or at that time Black, are all sisters, and they're the cousins of Sirius Black, and they each play kind of like a major role, except kind of not so much Andromeda, but we know her daughter, who we just
Tonks.
refer to as Tonks.
Right.
Yeah, so
I was
it's interesting.
confused at first.
Yeah,
when I was
she's
looking at
one of the names that's been blacked out on the tapestry. So that's Sirius's mom, I guess, just disowning them from the family.
it. Yeah. Right.
Sirius is another one of those names. So I guess it's because she married Ted Tonks, who is a Muggle lover. Is he a Muggle? I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't remember. Someone was a Muggle in this whole situation where they.
I think it was way at the top. I think a
Okay.
first generation, one of the three at the top.
We can check that out.
Yeah,
I
but
forget.
so that's some base level stuff that we know, but something that I did not know was that Orion, which is Sirius's father, his father's sister, which would be Sirius's aunt,
Yes.
whose name is Lucretia, married Ignatius Pruitt, and Pruitt is Molly Weasley's maiden name. So I guess that would make Ignatius Pruitt Sirius's uncle. So Sirius's uncle is related to Molly Weasley,
Yeah, so they're related.
which is cool.
Yeah. Okay, and then moving on to Phineas Nigellus, who is the most hated headmaster at Hogwarts in Hogwarts Legacy.
Yeah, the headmaster from Hogwarts Legacy, who works alongside a Weasley.
Oh yeah. you
Little
were
did
saying
he know he would be related to her family down the line in some ways.
that. Mm-hmm. And
Through the
he's
Pruitts.
He's Sirius's great grandfather.
Yeah, so yep.
Okay, so
Yeah, and then there's Cedrella Black, which is Sirius's grandparents' cousin. It gets confusing. As we look at this tree, it's
it's
a giant
so
web.
confusing.
It's a mess. Married a Weasley. So yeah, that was also a name blasted off the family tree. So this is something that when I was looking at a diagram, I couldn't tell.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the name wasn't there, obviously, because the diagram was based on the movie's tapestry,
Yeah.
or maybe from the book, but obviously it was blasted off, so we couldn't see. So I was looking up the blasted off names, and one of them happened to be a Weasley, and that's why it was removed so forcefully from said tapestry.
Mm-hmm. Poor Weasleys.
Yeah. So there's another relation, I guess, to the Weasley family that we know.
Yeah. They're very intertwined.
Yeah. So that would be, if that's Sirius's grandparents' cousin, and Phineas is his great grandparent, that would make this like one generation below Phineas Nigellus Black. So like, it's interesting after playing Hogwarts Legacy that he is the headmaster and he works really closely with Professor Weasley.
Yeah.
And then little do they know, in one generation their families will be married.
It is weird. Wait, and then in what generation?
Oh, in that same
Potter and a
generation on the family
Longbottom?
tree. Yeah, in that same generation in the family tree, there's a Potter married into the family. Charles, not Charles.
Charles.
Luss. And also, in the same generation, is a busy generation, is a Longbottom. Harfang Longbottom.
Mm-hmm. And we know the Longbottoms they're
Pure
like
blood.
pure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, Potters and Longbottoms, both pure blood. Not blasted from the tree. I guess at that time they weren't known as Muggle lovers.
Yeah. Right.
Like the Weasleys.
Because that's the whole thing.
Because the
they're
Weasleys are
against.
also pure blood.
Right.
But they're Muggle lovers, so they get
Yeah.
that treatment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's quite a few other recognizable names. I'm curious which of these that I wrote down you knew.
Recognizable to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, I'm curious which ones you would have recognized.
I mean,
A
I
lot
would
of them are.
recognize Casper Crouch.
Okay, yeah. So there's a Casper Crouch, which obviously Barty and Barty Jr. relation, most likely.
I recognize the last name Yaxley.
Yep. Okay, that's Yaxley is a Death Eater that we encounter a few times.
Obviously, Irma Crab, who we just know Crab.
Yeah, Vincent Crabbe.
I didn't even know his name was Vincent.
And Gregory Goyle, but no Goyle on this tree.
Right. Who else do I know? Oh yeah, I recognize the last name Bulstrode.
Okay, yeah, so Bulstrode, Millicent Bulstrode. So there's a Bulstrode on the family tree. This Bulstrode's relative, Millicent Bulstrode, is a Slytherin. It's the one that Hermione takes her hair off her cloak, and it happens to be her cat, actually.
Oh.
In
and
Chamber of
turns into
Secrets.
the cat.
Yeah.
Oh,
She's
that's funny.
also like in Umbridge's, Inquisitorial Squad. She's kind of like a background character, Slytherin.
Yeah.
And then there's also Ursula Flint, which is assumedly a relative of Marcus Flint, who's the Quidditch captain of the Slytherin team in like the early books.
I could not.
He's
could
the
not
in the
remember.
movie he's the guy who like smiles, and then he has like
Oh yeah.
really messed up teeth.
Yeah, actually,
Yeah.
that was a really good.
Yeah, I knew
for me
you'd
to
know him
remember
from
that.
that.
Yep.
And then the last name I have here is Melania Macmillan, which I'm thinking may be related to Ernie Macmillan from the Hufflepuff guy who's actually joins the DA, I believe, if I remember correctly. I think I do. He's like stuck up, obviously.
I didn't know.
Don't quote me on that, but I think he
Ernie.
I think he's in the DA.
Okay. Well, anything else to be said about that family tree, which
I
is
just-
very
yeah,
confusing.
It's just interesting. There's a lot of incestual relationships. There's a lot of names that we recognize even like outside of those incestual relationships. So it's either like in the family or some other pure blood that you've probably heard of.
Yeah.
There's very few like spouses with a last name we haven't heard.
Right.
Which I guess is kind of what you've come to expect in the Black family.
Yeah. I don't know if you wanted to talk more about. We were talking a lot about Regulus and how he was involved, and
Yeah, I mean, this had us talking about just like the Regulus creature story and how
we love Creature.
yeah, and how like how dirty the movies did them
Yeah.
where sort of the draw of Regulus going back and swapping the locket was that Voldemort was using Creature to test the like strengths of his obstacles to get to the locket.
Mm-hmm.
And so the only way Creature can escape is using elf magic, which he can't just like leave. He has to be ordered to leave.
Regulus ordered him to leave so he could get out.
Yeah,
And then
exactly.
Regulus was like, "What the heck?"
Yeah, and Regulus, drank the potion and replaced the locket, and gave the other one to Creature.
Right.
To keep it safe and safe to try to destroy it, but to journey back with it, I guess, just teleport or whatever. But
yeah,
which is something that he couldn't do.
Mm-hmm.
And so he, I guess, fought off the Inferi so that Creature could escape, and he died, sacrificed himself
for Creature,
for his house elf.
Yeah, pretty cool. So anyway, I like that part. And I feel like it was so much more interesting in the book.
Yeah, if there's ever a redemption of a black family character who isn't like a serious style character, like someone who's like obviously a good guy,
yeah,
it's Regulus. I mean, R.A.B. baby. Even though he actually kind of like made it more difficult for
I know in
Harry,
the end
Ron,
it was
and Hermione.
More, yeah,
like Dumbledore would have gotten the Horcrux, and it would have been real.
It wouldn't have been the fake other one.
And then they would have been at Hogwarts already, and they probably could have just killed it then and there.
Right. Whoops.
But
he tried.
Oh well.
But that's what it makes it more interesting.
Yeah.
It makes the series more interesting. Not everything can work out.
Yeah. Oh,
perfectly.
many things don't work out perfectly.
Which I like. It's
as
not
it
like
goes.
yeah. So, yeah. We talked a little bit about Sirius and like why he is the way he is, and it's not really explained.
Yeah.
I know like he didn't get along with his mom very well because of how
I
she
feel
felt.
I feel like he was just born the way he was.
Yeah,
I mean, like the Sorting Hat knew he was a Gryffindor and not a Slytherin, and
but and like before even going to that school, like he was already that way.
Yeah, it's just he was how he was.
Yeah,
I don't know if we need much reason why.
It's kind of like when your parents are they're different on political ideas, and you're just like, I don't agree with you.
Yeah, you may have been raised in the same household, but
yeah,
you don't necessarily have the same views. That's
kind of
pretty
how
common.
I see it. Yeah. So, anyway, I think that's it on the. We were gonna talk about like everything, like everyone on the family tree, and then it was
so
just
complicated.
way too much and kind of got boring. So,
tying
there's
like
more
the
videos
webs
out there.
Tying the webs of like person to person is just like my mind just starts to fuzz over.
Yeah.
I'd like to see like an official connection of how Charles Potter is related to Harry, James, Lily, and all them.
Yeah, and it was kind of like people weren't sure. Like I looked into that.
Yeah, I think it's like not even really confirmed that he's the same Potter family.
Right, that he's even related. So if anyone knows.
Like we assume it because the wizarding world is like kind of small.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's
apparently
not really confirmed.
Because they all.
It's because they inbreed.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a very inbred community. That's where the magic comes from.
Yeah. I don't know.
Well.
Anyway. All right.
Take us into the Vale.
So Sirius, this is how we're tying it together. Sirius obviously goes through the Vale, and we were talking about how like.
No, wait.
What's happening?
Just trying to do this thing, but I didn't.
Oh yeah, Alex isn't Catholic.
Serious. Rest in peace.
Is that only a Catholic thing? I don't know.
I don't know.
Yes, Alex was trying to do the sign of the cross. So that actually ties in a little bit to this too. But anyway, yeah, Bellatrix sucks. Oh, what was it that we were talking about? Speaking of the Vale and Bellatrix, in the movie.
Yeah, Sirius gets Avada Kedavra.
Yeah, she kills him before he goes through the Vale. In the book, he goes through the Vale, and then you're kind of like, okay,
it leaves like a sense of unease.
And you're like
you're just
what
like, ugh.
happened? Like,
Like,
we don't know that he died for sure, because what the heck is the veil?
you're like, serious? Like, one of the, like, a main character just, like, disappeared beyond this freaky weird veil with whispering voices.
Yeah.
And, like, I think he's dead because they're acting like he's dead, but maybe he'll come back. Harry got a special present from him.
Yeah.
Like, maybe that's how he comes back. And it's like before the book came out, we were all theorizing, like, maybe Sirius can come back. Harry has the mirror.
Right.
But no.
So, I don't know. Anyway, he dies. Like, that is confirmed. We talked a little bit about it being like a purgatory. That's not the case. He just dies.
Yeah.
So, the veil. So, there's something called beyond the veil, which is a phrase, and it's from traditional Hebrew. The purpose of the veil was to hide and to bar everyone from entering the symbolic presence of God. So what that means?
So in Hebrew churches,
yes.
Which, what's the word? It's so good. Tabernacle.
Yeah.
I don't know really what it is, but like in a Hebrew tabernacle, only the like high priest,
the holy,
and only the holy of holies. No, only the high priest. This was the terminology, I think. Only the high priest in the tabernacle could enter the Holy of Holies on the day of something, on some special day.
Yeah.
There's one more word, didn't write it down. But in other words, the priest was the only one allowed beyond the veil to be in the presence of God. It's the symbolic presence of God.
Yeah, because people are sinners, so they're not allowed to talk with God directly. They have to go through
said priest.
Yeah. And I mean, when I was thinking about that in the Catholic Church, you have to like go to confession and talk to someone to confess through a priest so that it goes to God. So it's just kind of interesting to read. There's
a lot of veil type things.
There's some veil stuff going
on.
You know,
when you get married, you put a veil over.
There's stuff on that too, but we're not. We could go into that for a while. So anyway, when Jesus died on the cross, which was 60-foot veil, 4 inches thick.
Yeah. So this. Sorry, my note there was a rough one, but
yeah.
When he died on the cross, it says that
the veil was torn.
The veil, which is a 60-foot tall veil that's 4 inches thick, was torn in a way that's like...
I think it was just torn from up, like...
From the top?
The top to bottom. That's kind of what I was getting from it.
Okay. So in a way that's like impossible by man.
So because God tore it from the top to the bottom, it was God that tore it and not a man. And that tearing of the veil removed the separation between God and man. So then, I don't know, people were allowed to...
Yeah, so then you didn't have to wait for you didn't have to communicate through the high priest at the tabernacle on the day of whatever, going into the Holy of Holies.
Yes. All right, so then moving on, we go back to Harry Potter. So the veil...
That's the history of the veil now.
We don't really know if that's what J.K. Rowling was going...
It seemed interesting, it seemed interesting that it like represents like a connection to the afterlife.
Yeah.
And that once you go through it, like, I mean, obviously the priest can come back, but it's like you've experienced some sort of connection with God or the afterlife or whatever.
Right. Yeah, and we talk a little bit about each of the people, but we'll get there. So anyway, the veil is basically a divide between life and death. So we can't travel between them in Harry Potter. I don't know about real life. I don't know. People say they die and come back to life or whatever, and they experience weird things, but the veil appears to be fluttering according to the book, and kind of like swaying as though it was just touched. And that's just due to the souls that are passing through, because people died and their souls go through the veil.
Yeah, so that's freaky, because the way they explain in the book is like it's constantly fluttering, like it's always moving a little.
People are always dying.
Because like dudes just be dying all the time.
Yeah, I know.
And so it's always just like...
I didn't take that away for some reason. Like, sorry. It's interesting to think about now. because you can read Harry Potter like 8 times and you're like, oh, like you pick up on those things.
It's funny to think, like, I wonder how much time she spent just like conceptualizing the idea of the veil.
Yeah.
Like, 'cause obviously she put some like thought
she
into
did an
the
interview on it.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of it wasn't obvious, but then we'll talk about it, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure. Or did she think about it after and she's like, yeah.
Yeah, maybe she just like fills in the blanks later.
Who knows? Do you want to talk about the three brothers a little bit?
Yeah, so I thought this was interesting. So there's a nod to the three brothers, or a nod to the veil in the three brothers, where let's see, which brother is it? Cadmus Peveril, who wishes for the resurrection stone because his like lover had passed and he really missed her. Mm-hmm. So he cheats death in that he gets to bring people back to life with the resurrection stone. But the thing that he doesn't account for is that sure, they come back to life, but they're like as if they're seeing everything as if through a veil is exactly how it's described. So obviously veil. They feel disconnected from the world. They don't feel like the joys and emotion and the connection to people and stuff.
Right.
It's like an unnatural feeling. And so she's just like depressed in the world. And so death wins on Cadmus Peveril.
Yeah. Can't get around it.
Yeah. So I don't know. I found that to be like a really interesting connection there. Mm-hmm. Literally like the word veil is used to describe.
Yeah.
Like the feeling of the dead person come back. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, it's interesting. And also basically the way that the veil works is that the souls that are behind the veil can sense a loved one coming by, and they sort of attempt to communicate, and that draws them in. I doubt that they're trying to do that to kill their loved one, but this is what happens. According to J.K. Rowling.
It makes it sound like they're in like straight up hell. Like if you're
like screaming for their loved one. Yeah,
if you're trying to like get your loved one, no matter what it takes, knowing.
So then how are they dead? Like I don't understand.
Well, I mean, I think the idea is that it's an afterlife. Yeah, I think the idea is it's an afterlife in some form of hell, because why else would you be like calling to your loved one to like join you?
Or maybe they're like, it's great here.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. It could,
come join me. I don't know.
It could be that. They could be like, it's worth it. You don't need to. Who cares?
Don't fear.
Yeah,
the veil is wonderful.
Screw life. Come join us in the veil. There's a party.
I don't know. But anyway, what I was trying to understand more of is like why some people are drawn to it more and why others aren't. And that was in an interview. I forget what the book's name is. Written by
Harry a History.
Oh yeah, Harry a History. Written by someone. Yeah. So basically those that are more accepting of the idea of an afterlife are going to sense those that are within the veil more because they have more faith. So Luna is a faithful person and she like really hears what's going on. But she doesn't nobody's gonna understand.
None of them
but she hears it louder.
But yeah,
it sounds like than everyone else.
Yeah,
she's probably more drawn to it.
It makes you think of the Thestrals too.
Yeah,
like she sees the Thestrals and she's totally like, yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's great.
And then like obviously Harry can see them
but like a little less accepting.
He's like, what the heck are these things? This is unnatural. This is weird.
Yeah.
No one else can see them. What the heck? And she's like, yeah, we saw dead people.
Yeah, she's fought. And yeah, she's definitely like cool with the afterlife situation. Harry also is pretty drawn toward it. And she talks about how I think he's just hopeful that there's an afterlife for his dead parents. So he's drawn toward it. Ron, she basically says Ron is just scared. Because that's how Ron is. And then Hermione, who's very rational, is not really a believer. Or you don't think she is. She doesn't really talk about it much. So
she just thinks of it rationally, like...
Yeah. So she's just like, this is not a good idea.
Yeah, she's just like, this seems wrong.
Get away from the veil.
Stop walking to it. Let's do the right thing and ignore it.
Right. So, Anything? Oh, you mentioned that Harry was drawn to it because of his parent. We talked about because of his parents' death, but then you say that's in the same way that Cadmus Peveril was drawn to the idea of the resurrection stone.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like one thing we know about Harry is he's related to the Peveril brother with the invisibility cloak, so in that way related to Cadmus as well. I just find it interesting that there's like a connection in the story of Harry Potter where one of his relatives is drawn to bringing people back to life, and then there's the veil thing where who he brings back he sees through as if a veil. And then Harry's loses his uncle, basically his godfather, Sirius, through the veil. And even before he loses him, obviously, he's drawn to the veil. And
Right.
yeah, and it's just like, obviously, he's drawn to it. He wants, like, he doesn't think about himself. He wants to bring those back who are beyond the veil.
Right. Because who wouldn't like it? Like if your parent crossed the veil, you'd probably try to run after them.
Yeah.
Or a loved one. So, anything else about the veil?
I don't think so. I mean, we joked about there being a spin-off series, but I think now that it might be a little boring.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to look up.
Yeah, I mean, I just had curiosity about the veil because I didn't really understand what really happened.
Yeah, it has me
Kind of gone into some religious
yeah, it has me curious what else that we just kind of read and move on from has that kind of like research and depth to it.
Yeah, like this is a small part of the book.
It's literally like half a chapter.
I think we dove a little deeper than maybe we needed to. I don't know if J.K. Rowling was thinking this far.
I think some things like the connection to the Catholic tabernacle veil may be a little bit
You mean Hebrew?
guessing. Hebrew, whatever.
I don't know.
We may be guessing to some point the connection there, but I mean it's pretty
it's interesting.
Pretty interesting.
I mean, a lot of religious stuff is interesting. But yeah. It's just I just needed to know. So anyway, I think that's everything. We were gonna cast Sirius, but we were like, this is a long conversation, so maybe we'll do that at some other point.
Yeah, we'll cast him soon. I think an episode I would like to do soon is we pitch each other spin-off series.
Oh yeah, Alex is.
I've been trying to. Yeah, I've been. This. I'm saying this on camera now so that we do it because I think this will be a fun episode.
Okay, maybe. Are we taking next week off?
Right, we should announce this. Yeah, so we're gonna be in like super rural Vermont. With no service.
Yay!
And so we won't be here next week, but see you after that.
Yeah. All right.
Later.
Bye.